What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another movie review. I'm Chase Lee, and the movie I want to take a look at right now is Mulan. Now, this one comes from Disney. It is directed by Nicky Caro, and this one tells the story of a young Chinese maiden that disguises herself as a male warrior in order to save her father. It is the live-action adaptation of the 1998 classic Disney animated film. I say classic because it's one of my favorites growing up, and then, of course, during the Disney Renaissance period. It is one of my go-tos. So this is the live-action retelling of that story. It's different in the regard that it doesn't have any musical numbers or talking animals, so it does stand on its own 2 feet, but it's also a shadow over its predecessors. So there's that correlation. So going into this, I was kind of all over the place with my emotions, but first and foremost, just to see this movie's kind of journey through the pandemic and it being pulled right as it started here in the U.S. Then it was supposed to come out in theaters and they pushed it. Then it was supposed to come out in theaters again. They pushed it and then they pulled it. And they're like, it's going to be $30 on Disney Plus on top of your subscription service. But you get to watch as many times as you want. So I paid the $30 for it. But it's just been weird to see this movie and its, kind of just run, in its existence and just seeing where it landed. But so I paid for it on Disney Plus, and the trailers I actually thought were pretty good, and I was like excited because it looked like it was going to be something different from what we've seen with like Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin and Lion King, all these recent remakes that I've just been not a fan of. But the wartime story and just this epic feeling, it lends itself to live action on the big screen, and so I was looking forward to it in that regard. And the trailer or trailers that I saw, I was like, okay, this could be something different. So I saw it. First of all, is it worth $30? No. Is it as bad or worse than the recent remakes that we've gotten? No, it's slightly better. It's tolerable. Some enjoyable parts. Ultimately, though, it's still not for me, and it's not something I'm going to go to in the near future and watch again. It's a one-time thing for me. So am I going to give more of these remakes a chance? I'm not sure yet. My emotions are all over the place. But I honestly thought this was just okay overall. There's some bad stuff that I don't like about it, but as far as like an overall conclusion of it, it's fine, I guess. So let's dive into it. So a couple things positive-wise before we jump into a mainly negative review, but I wanted to give some light on some stuff that I enjoyed. One, the supporting cast, given the material that they were given and the scenes that they were in, they made the most that they could do with that material, and they had an impact. So anyone that was not Mulan, basically, I enjoyed in terms of performance, and they really got into the scene, and they were the characters, and I felt like they had personality and style and flair to them. I enjoyed watching them, whether it be her father, her mother, Donnie Yen's character, all the wonderful, colorful personalities at the training ground, like Poe and Cricket. I thought everyone around Mulan, was enjoyable enough, and I thought they did a pretty decent job. The other thing I liked about this movie was the pacing. For being an hour and 55 minutes, it was better paced than I thought it was going to be, and I didn't really think it was boring necessarily. It's very straightforward. It gets to the point. It starts out, very quickly in the beginning, setting everything up, and then it's off to the races. Doesn't waste any time. Pretty airtight in its storytelling, and I just thought for 2 hours long, almost 2 hours long, it flew by, and I thought it was like an hour and a half by the end of it. That's how quickly paced it was. Now, granted, Nicky Caro does have a checklist type of director mentality going into this, just like Guy Ritchie did with Aladdin, where it's like, okay, get this scene, get this scene, get this scene. But you still have to work with your editor to get that right pacing down, to make sure each scene breathes on its own and you can easily transition into the next. That still takes skill to do. I don't care if you're doing a checklist type of remake or not. You still have to work with the editor to get that pacing down. And for what it is, it's not badly paced at all. So if you have a kid that gets really antsy and you were worried that this would be too long or whatever, I think they would be entertained by it, so take that for what you will. Okay, now everything else. So as much as I appreciate Nikki and the editor for putting together a pretty cohesive story that ultimately came out to be okay, but the pacing was pretty good, I thought everything else that she was in charge of in terms of like visual structure and just making sure it feels like this powerful epic story, I thought was kind of lacking. So setting aside the fact that like Mulan has like superpowers and is like an ultimate warrior, I can excuse that. It is what it is. Whatever. I know people are bringing that up in the reviews, but I actually had more of a problem with like how this film looked and it being the live action representation of the animated film. The production design and the sets I thought were good for the most part. I mean, there's a lot of intricacy and detailed work and the woodwork and just the construction of the homes and the villages. Like, it does have like this Game of Thronesy type of look to it in some aspects, and that does provide weight to the story. It provides environment for these characters to kind of freely roam around in, and you feel like you're a part of this journey. So some of that was pretty good, and the costuming was also good on that part. It was the melding of the sets and the green screen work. Now, I'm old enough to know at this point that Disney is obsessed with the green screen work, and I even will defend some movies with green screen work, but this is not one of them. And I don't think it works out at all. I mean, this is an expensive movie. And yet it's just so weird to me that you would have like these authentic sets and like really establishing a bunch of extras in there and like making it feel like a community of people in this environment. And then you have all the backgrounds green screened. And just it feels like this flat 2D painting. It just doesn't look right when the actors are interacting in the scene. There's just something really off-putting about it, and it provides this coldness, this distance that you feel as an audience member to really sink yourself into the story because of how vapid it looks. And that's the problem I have with all of these remakes so far. It's not just Mulan, it's all of them. And I don't know why Disney does this. It's just it doesn't look right. So the compositing work with the actors going against the visual effects, not good at all. And you're supposed to provide the storytelling with that extra boost of visual effects, and it's supposed to help it, not hurt it, and I feel like it's hurting it and not really enhancing the story one bit. I also thought most of the character work and really getting, performances out of these actors, besides some of the surrounding cast, I also thought was kind of bland. Like, the actress that plays Mulan, I didn't feel it at all. And you're supposed to be the lead in your story, and she just doesn't have personality to her. I thought her mother, the actress that played her mother, and her sister had more personality than her. There was just something about the way she portrayed this character that just didn't sit right with me. It just didn't have the presence that you want in a movie where you want to follow the lead character and their journey. It was almost like she didn't want to follow her own journey, and she was very like kind of distant towards it. I don't know. It didn't work for me in terms of having her really have this movie on her shoulders and carrying it through, and making us, fall in love with this character that we did with the animated film. Because I wanted whoever's going to portray Mulan to just be this wonderful, actress that was like just this strong character, really made us feel for her journey. I just didn't feel any of that. And that has to do with her performance. And, it's Nikki Caro's responsibility to get the best performances out of her actors. And Mulan did not work for me. So those are kind of my issues I have with Nikki Caro and her direction. But I do think in terms of nailing down the pacing of the story, that is definitely there. So I will give her credit for that. The battle sequences, which you would think would be a given the fact that it's like a wartime film and the imagery should be pretty awesome to look at in that regard, really make us appreciate choreography and stunt work and the sword play. That was also not there. And it was those parts were edited super quickly. Maybe that's why the pacing was, I thought, overall decent, because like some of these parts were like super fast. But like the battle sequences were edited to hell. I mean, there was like there'd be like one little sequence that would have like 20 different angles, chopping back and forth between like 1 to 2 seconds each. That's not enough time for us to appreciate and to really feel the weight of the actions that these characters are portraying. It just feels like Disney's trying to hide the PG-13 rating even more with fast editing. You can't tell what's going on. There's no violence in there because you can't tell what they're stabbing. And it's just like, that doesn't serve anyone. It doesn't serve the story. It doesn't serve the audience. It just feels rushed. Like you're trying to speed through the movie. So, yeah, you figured the battle sequences would be a given. And some of the slow-mo shots, I can see where the style is coming from. And could have been unique and special if it was only used like maybe 1 or 2 times. But the slow-mo thing, it gets so tiring at the beginning of the movie. So it's whatever. I was numb to it by the time they got to some of the battles. But yeah, it's just not for me. I give it a C-. It's not as bad as the others. It's only slightly better, but that's not a ringing endorsement. I'm tired of these movies, man. I really am. So yeah, what did you guys think of Mulan? Let me down below whether you loved it, you hated it. Even if I don't reply to all the comments, I do read them all. But yeah, I would like to know anyone that like loved it, and I would like to know what you thought about it. So, but yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube and you want to subscribe to my YouTube channel to get up to date, so whenever I review anything, you can do just that. Or if you're more of a podcast person, you want these in audio form, you can also do that. And it's Real Me and Cole in the Movie podcast, the podcast feed. On Spotify, Anchor, Castbox. I'm all over the place. Just search me. You will find me if that's more of your style. But that will do it for this review, guys. I'm Chase Lee, and tune in next time for whatever I review next. I will see you guys later.